Welcome to the Performance Portfolio Podcast with Coop and Coop. Greg Cooper is the owner of Cooper Performance Coaching and lead instructor at Kodakwai Judo Club in Edmonton, Alberta. He is on the lifelong pursuit of helping others increase their performance. Cooper Allen is a top financial advisor from Barrie, Ontario, whose focus is empowering everyday families with advice, leadership, and tools that we should have been given in school. Together, they bridge the gap between performance and finance to help you create your own robust performance portfolio. With that, let's get into today's episode.
Coop, what are we talking about today, my friend?
Greg, I'm looking forward to this one. Off air, I said, hey, let's do an episode of things to stop complaining about in 2026. And I had a list of things, and you said, okay, well, do you want to run those things by me so I could take some notes ahead of us recording? I said, nope, let's go off the cuff. Uh, and you're like, yeah, let's go off the cuff. Actually, that's better. You'll get the best of Greg today. So I'm looking forward to it. But how you feeling? You excited, nervous, excited, or what?
I think I'm excited, but I'm gonna have to really pace myself because what just popped into my head is from Family Guy. You know what really grinds my gears?
Yeah, you're gonna sound like the old guy.
I'm gonna try to avoid that. And every time, every day of my life, I'm gonna try to lead with positivity. But I'm excited. This is gonna be fun.
Awesome. Before I get into the list that I've worked out of curiosity, what do you see as the core one or two things that people really complain about a ton that needs to go away?
Uh, how, I mean, we just talked about this, how the last generation had it easier, how I can't get the right job, how I can't get ahead in life. Everybody has it out for me. Again, it just leading back to the victim mindset. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that could fit in that, but the list could be long. So I'll leave it at that. And I'm excited to what you have because you're in always very insightful on this. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, well, exactly what you just said kind of spreads across three of the different bullets. So why don't you know what? Why don't we start there? There were a few down the list, and I'll get back to the first couple. But to your point, complaining about what others have, plus complaining about conditions needing to be perfect to get started doing anything, to buy a home, to start a financial plan, to start a workout regimen, start a business, anything like that. So I'd say one of the top things, I guess, first and foremost, first bullet point is stop complaining that the move that you need to make is not perfect timing for you to make it. You know, it's the thing, you know, you need to do it, but it's never the right time. That's a huge excuse that people are making. So 2026 is the year of doing the thing that you know you need to do instead of saying that it's not the right time. Is Cooper's bullet point number one. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that. And that should be the theme of the year because I'm going to use the examples that are out there. And people say, oh, they're not relevant. Those are one offs. Well, no, they're only one offs in your world because that's the way you view them. Dwayne Johnson had $7 in his bank account when he got cut from the CFL. Now look at him. Steve Jobs, school dropout. I'm not going to go further than that because the list is long and we know these names. Those people weren't in perfect conditions. Those people weren't in the best position when they started doing what they're doing. That means the perfect conditions for you to take those steps to achieve or to start whatever you are after, whether it's a business, whether it's personal development, whether it's looking for that promotion, taking a chance and traveling the world, whatever that is, the perfect condition is the most imperfect condition. And from a standpoint of training, I always preface this. We need to train in imperfect scenarios, in tougher scenarios than we're going to face to be ready for the unknown and unknowable that is life. So, yeah, it's a tough mindset shift to make, but it's the only way forward is to go, okay, day one or one day. And if you're always going to say one day, you're never going to do it. Just change, just cut it out of your list, rip that page, burn it. But if you say day one, congratulations. Good for you. I'm proud of you. I'll cheer for you. If you reach out to me, I'll give you any advice I can.
100%. What part of my interview process when I'm onboarding people to our firm, uh, in more of a commission sales role, and naturally, part of anytime you're learning a new industry or you're going maybe full commission for the first time or anything like that, it's going to come with some challenges. And in the interview, I pre-frame, I say, this isn't always going to be easy, but the goal isn't easy. The goal is for it to be worth it. And I get to the core of the interview. I say, what are the things you could see holding yourself back from achieving the success that you want? But more importantly, what are the reasons you want to be successful other than just increasing your income? And we get to the core of those, and I say, let's say I was interviewing you. I'd say, Greg, I know we don't know one another super well yet, but can I ask you something? Like, can I challenge you on something? And, yeah, sure, Coop, what's up? I said, when this business gets difficult, can I just ask? And they've told me the reasons why, their kids and want to make a difference in their community, whatever. When this gets difficult, am I allowed to remind you of these things and challenge you to keep these things top of mind? And that right there, how they answer that will tell me a lot about whether or not that person's going to win in our industry. Because I find that typically the biggest thing, it's so ironic, the thing that takes people out of either any sort of business, whether it's our world, real estate, mortgages, franchising, whatever people are doing, the thing that takes them out of the game is actually the reason that they started. They want to win for their kids, but then, oh, I'm too busy with my kids to get this thing off the ground, for example. And it is crazy. It goes back to the whole conditions needing to be perfect, that make 2026 the year the conditions don't need to be perfect. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Just fight the fight hurt, fight at full strength. And it's not the person who is the best at their A game that's going to win. It's the person who's at their best when they're not at their A game that's going to win.
Yeah, I want to say one more quick thing about that because my answer wasn't completely actionable. So for anybody listening to this, here's the actionable thing on the imperfect, because it's hard when you're not, financially stable, you don't have the partner that you think that you want, whatever the other scenarios that is your quote unquote perfect life. The word perfect is difficult because perfect is the enemy of execution. Because if you always are chasing perfect, perfect doesn't exist. It's intangible, it's not achievable. So, when you are in those tough, down, hard scenarios, hard environment, whether you write it down or just think about it, visualize it, think about what your passion and what your purpose in life is. And that is why people like Dwayne Johnson, Andy Frisella, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, whoever you want to say that has started from very little or was low, and they knew what their purpose was in life, or they figured it out on that journey. So find that, and that drive, that burning desire deep inside of you will move you forward, and it'll help you stop complaining about what others have and what you don't, and situations that you can't control. So there you go. Great first one, Coop. Love it.
Yeah. So thing number one, in summary, thing number one to stop complaining about heading into 2026 is that the timing never seems to be right for you to do what you need to do. All right. Thing number two, which is similar but not exactly the same, is thing number two, I don't have time. Everything that we've talked about in the last however many episodes that we've recorded. I want to be a good person, but I don't have time. I want to get in shape, but I don't have time. I want to make more money, but I don't have time. I want to whatever. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. Thing number two to stop complaining about in 2026 is that you're too busy. What are your thoughts on that, Greg?
Okay, I got a monologue on this for 20 minutes. Coop, you're completely correct. People need to stop complaining about this and they need to reframe how they view time. We've all heard it. Time is the most valuable resource we have because it's the one thing we cannot get back. And the more we waste it, the the less opportunity and the less value that we can give to the world in the time that we do have. The way I do it, and I'm going to preface this with I am single, I do not have kids. As far as financial security, I only have to worry about myself. So currently, the risks I can take are larger than somebody who has kids, a young family, and is budding. But it'll change. For somebody who is single, doesn't have anybody to keep alive, live your life 25 minutes at a time. That seems unreasonable, but a 25-minute timer at work will help you achieve what could take you 3 hours in less than 25 minutes because now you're gamifying your life. For a young family, that 25 minutes might be a week at a time because you have to plan out driving kids to school, appointments, music lessons, sports, all of this other things. And Coop, you can talk more on that. But I'm around that as a judo coach. I understand what families have to plan for. But if you plan that out, whatever that duration is, try to keep it like a week is where I would keep it at the max time window. The shorter you can make it, the shorter that you have the ability to make it, the better. And you will start utilizing your time so well. But there's lots of functions to create time for you that you think you don't have. Google Calendar, shared calendar, put it on your wall. Power list, big three. Utilize your time better and you will have time for it. But if all you do is complain about not having time, that's all that will happen. So you need to, again, look at what is important to you and to the people around you, your family, your coworkers, your friends, your employees, and change that. So, yeah, segmenting your time and gamifying your life will help you stop complaining that you don't have enough time. Coop, thoughts on that?
For sure. I would say that I am the most quote unquote busy that I've ever been in terms of the business I'm running is the biggest it's ever been. My kids are the oldest that they've ever been, so on and so forth. And I'm the most productive and getting the most done, and probably also the most present that I've been in a very long time as well, and have some of the best work-life integration I've had. And like you said, it's systems and structures, figuring out what matters to you. Uh, Look at your calendar. If there's, I was always trained on coming up in business, no gaps. And that doesn't mean that a business appointment needs to be booked in the calendar, but your date nights do, your kids' activities do. No gaps in the calendar. And I schedule my downtime. Everything's pre-planned. There's you reference tools. I'll give a couple tangible tools. I use Microsoft To Do, and my subfolders in Microsoft To Do is personal tasks, spouse meeting topics that's shared with my wife. And anytime there's something we want to talk about, we throw it in. We do a formal spouse meeting at least once a month. Uh, Anything admin related in our business, that's a shared doc with people who support me with admin. But then other than that, the other three I have time sensitive, important, and rainy day. If it's less than 2 minutes, I don't add it to the to-do list. Anything that's I need to do that's less than 2 minutes, I do it in the moment. Anything that's more than 2 minutes, I decide which of those buckets it goes in. Is it time sensitive? Is it important? Or is it rainy day? So then as I pre-plan my following day, I can look at my to-do list and go, what do I need to get done that will move the needle? And then from there, I use an app called Habit Share. And in Habit Share, I can check off, have I pre-planned my day or not? And it's just a checkbox, green check mark, red X. But then you can also add notes. So at the end of tonight, I'll go in and I'll add my green check mark. And then in my notes, I will go hour by hour or to your point, Greg, even sometimes half an hour by half an hour. Um, Today I broke down, here's exactly what I'm doing from 7 to 7:30, 8 to 8, 7:30 to 8, 8 to 8:30. Uh, then I put from 8:30 to 7 p.m. I had a bunch of stuff in my Google Calendar already. So I was like, just follow what's in your calendar and the notes within your calendar events. Uh, but then, yeah, I had scheduled in within those notes a 30-minute break. Uh, yeah, I had, I guess, basically three different 30-minute blocks throughout the day for work-related stuff and two other 30-minute blocks throughout the day for family-related stuff. And all of that to say, it's what works for my brain right now.
Mhm.
And what works for my brain right now might change in a week, a month, a year, but it allows me to be where I need to be in my business, be where I need to be with my family, my friends, whatever, and prioritize important stuff and be productive. So, uh, I I can't rack my brain around. It doesn't matter whether someone's working 80 hours a week and has four kids, or whether they work 20 hours a week and have no kids. The thing that's a common denominator between the two of them when they go to the Christmas party is they complain about how busy they are. How is that even remotely possible? It's all mindset.
Mhm.
And busy is not, there's a thing that came across social media a couple of years ago that I related with. It said busy is not a badge of honor. And that's how I feel about that topic. If you tell me you're busy, it's first of all, how can you have no time and no money? You gotta have one or the other. If you have no time, you better have money. If you have no money, you better have lots of time. If you have both, what is going on? Like when you tell me, hey, I'm busy, I don't hear you got a lot on the go. I hear you're not very good at being an adult
Mhm.
and managing a schedule and organizing your day is what I hear. I don't hear, oh, that's so good that you're busy. I hear that's kind of sad. Actually, sorry that you're still there. I hope you find a way to overcome it.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Great tools there, Coop, as well. And the one thing I always tell my athletes and my clients outside of sports is, pressure and busy is a privilege. We should be privileged that we get to work this hard because that means you have the ability to do so. Others don't. And that is so important, and it's utilizing these tools that there's so many resources out there, whether it's a physical tool like Microsoft To Do, your iPhone, your notebook, and then there's coaches, there's mentors, there's friends, there's accountability loops. All that stuff will give you back time. And I'm going to share a quote from one of my favorite shows ever, and that's from Billions, Bobby Axelrod, one of the greatest characters ever. The greats never sacrifice the important for the urgent. They handle the immediate problem and still make sure to secure the future. And I'm going to leave it at that for stop complaining about time.
Yeah, that's huge. I love that. Okay, we're at the midway point here. I get two more for you. The next one is a little bit of a different vibe. So, number one, just to recap again, the number one thing to stop complaining about heading into 2026 is timing never being right to make something happen. The second thing to stop complaining about heading into 2026 is things being too busy. The third thing to stop complaining about, and this one's new, Greg, is when you need to do work that's beneath you. Stop complaining that things are beneath you. Whether that's renting a home is beneath me. I'm not going to get in the market until I can buy. Or I'm not going to pick up that side job because that's beneath me. What are your thoughts initially on that?
If you believe it's beneath you, you're in the wrong position. It's the difference between a boss and a leader. A true leader doesn't bark orders from the sideline, doesn't bark orders from their throne. A true leader gets in the trenches and does it with the team, shows the team what the standard is for that team. And if you are sitting there in your perfect little throne, in your perfect little bubble, thinking that you got it made, you don't. This one really gets me because I think it was more prevalent a few years ago. It's becoming less prevalent, but there's still enough people that that think they're too good for it, and it's an ego check. Who are you to say that you're too good to shovel the sidewalk or clean up the mess in the office, pick up the trash that's in the bathroom, stack the plates at the restaurant for the waiter so it's easier for them to take your plates when you're done your meal. Small medial tasks that used to be an everyday thing in and out of the workforce have now become like, oh, and the real leaders out there will always do that. The one example I'll share is a friend of mine. Their dad had a large engineering firm. Um, my friend now runs it, Succession, but his dad had a secretary. And when he was interviewing individuals to join their firm, he would hold them in the waiting room in front of their secretary for a long duration of time. That was the interview. How they treated the secretary determined if they got the job or not, or if they got the opportunity to go talk to him. And when the secretary would go, okay, Cooper Allen, she'd open the door and she'd look at my buddy's dad, the CEO, president of the company, owner of the company, and would give him a nod or a shake. If they treated her like she was nothing, didn't say hello to her because they thought they were high and mighty because they had an engineering degree, because their daddy bought them a suit, you don't make the cut. But if they walked in, hello, miss, how are you today? Oh, this is wonderful. You look great. That's a great color on you. Don't even need to go that far. If they just said hello, how are you, and were cordial, they got the opportunity. So whether you're the CEO of a company or just on the street, if you think a task or an individual human being is beneath you, you need to give yourself a check because that is not the case, my friend.
100%. Along similar lines, the mindset going in to 2026 needs to be, I'm willing to do whatever it takes so long as it's legal, moral, and ethical to make the world and my world a better place. And I remember meeting a guy for the first time. We're in a group setting around some buddies at a bar, having beer and wings. And I knew where the guy worked. It was came up earlier in the conversation, and I knew it was kind of your standard Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And then the guys in that group were working or talking about an event that was going to be on the weekend, and asked him if he was going to come. He's like, "No, I got to work. I can't be there." And I piped up and I said, "Well, you work at such and such place. Like that's not a weekend gig." Well, he said, "Well, to be honest, guys, I got myself in a bit of debt trouble, so I picked up a second job." And it was a job that kind of a couple people put their noses up going, what are you doing that? You got this successful career over here and you're working doing this. And I said to him, I said, dude, do you know how much respect I have for that? And the couple other buddies are like giving him a hard time and they were kind of caught off guard by me saying that. I'm like, no, that's 100% the definition of personal responsibility. And I said, dude, I'm like, the awesome thing is, I'm like, I don't know how much debt you have, but let's say it's 20 grand and you made 20 grand part-time. Like, okay, you worked that part-time job for a year, paid it off. Worked that part-time job for another year, you've built an emergency fund. You worked that part-time job for a third year, you got a lump sum that you could invest. That 20 grand's probably, if depending on how much time you have, might be two, three, four, 500 grand to your retirement, or it could be a house down payment fund or your like lifetime emergency funds that you never have to use a credit card again, whatever the case may be. So I said, I don't know how long you plan to make this sacrifice for, but I'm like, I'd imagine it's not that big of a sacrifice. Like one of your 2 days on the weekend, like, or maybe even a half day, a couple evenings here and there. Uh, it doesn't seem like a ton, but yeah, you're going to go through a period where you do a little bit more than you're used to get yourself back on track and move yourself further ahead. You're doing what it takes. And the fact that, yeah, you overcame that initial thought of, oh, that's beneath me. Do you know how many people right now I see, Greg, that make 40 grand a year but they stay in that job because it's in their field that they got a degree in and won't go wait tables where they'd make more than 40 grand a year waiting tables because that job's beneath them? It's insane to me. You could go make
Far too
more
many.
money. Yeah, you go make money being a cart girl at a golf course, but you're like, oh, that's so beneath me. I'm worried about what people think. But you're working less and getting paid more in a lot of those circumstances than your college educated degree.
The the last thing I'll say on this one, because these are all very important, but as far as the list right now, I think this one might be the most important to me. We live in a society now where it's wrong to have pride. Or at least it is presented to be wrong to have pride. But that couldn't be further from the truth. And again, I say the true leaders in this world don't view anything beneath them. Don't do the small remedial things for others or for yourself. Do it because it's the right thing to do. I'm going to go from a business side of things, and then I'll go from just a normal citizen. From a business side of things, if people walk into your building and go, geez, your cleaning staff suck. There's garbage, the entryway carpets are muddy, and there's snow and blah blah blah. That reflects poorly on your whole organization. People will assume that every business has a cleaning lady or anything like that, or a janitorial staff, whatever it is, but that's not always the case. So if you are on the leadership team or just a member and you show up early, shovel the walk in front of your business, tidy up, go into the washroom. Oh, there's smudges on the mirror. That 5 seconds that I just did here, that's how long it takes to do that task. And then when people walk in, whether they're customers, employees, new people, they'll go, wow, this place looks great. They're not going to ask who did it, but they're going to go, wow, this place looks great. And that reflects that your business is always upkept. Even if you're the owner doing it, you should be doing it. That's your job. That's your role. Out in public, you are on a hike, on a walk in the paths in your neighborhood. You see some trash. You could scoff and go, "God, I can't believe people just throw their stuff out." So then you saying that and taking the time to think that is just as bad because you could have went, huh, walk the next 30 feet to the garbage can that's there and put it out. So if you view a task as beneath you, give yourself an ego check and ask yourself, why is that beneath me? Because if you ask yourself why, you're going to find out that it is not beneath you. So stop complaining about it and just do the task.
It's interesting you brought that up because the one that didn't make the cut, the honorable mention of things we need to stop complaining about heading into 2026 is other people. And the reality is that it's one thing to vent occasionally about other people and state of society to get it off your chest, but what other people do should not alter your standard for how you want to show up in the world. Okay, your neighbor sucks. Don't suck. From a sports perspective, what are the most frustrating teams to be a fan of? The team that plays down to their opponent. You know, okay, we're a playoff team. We're playing the worst team in the league. We should beat them. If it's football, let's say we should beat them 42-7. How come we beat them 10-7? Because we played down to our opponent. Don't play down to your opponent in real life. If somebody sucks next door, feel like you got to overcompensate on your standard to make the world a better place because you're making up for the fact that other people aren't holding the same standard. So that was the honorable mention thing to what was just, hey, this is the year we're going to try to limit our complaining about other people. At the very least, I think there's space to still complain about other people, but there is no space for altering your standard based on them.
Yeah. Well, and that one applies to every single one of these things on your list, on our list here. You can't let small minds affect your life. You can't let negative minds affect your life. Move forward with a purpose. Do the right thing.
Absolutely. So just to summarize so far, the first thing to stop complaining about in 2026 is that the timing never seems to be right for you to do what you need to do. The second thing to stop complaining about is that you're too busy. The third thing to stop complaining about is that uh, there's work out there that's beneath you or people out there that are beneath you, getting rid of that better than complex, heading into then the superiority complex, heading into the new year. And the last thing, just to put a bow on all of it, is the fourth and final thing to stop complaining about in 2026 is the past. And here's why I think this is an important bow, Greg, before I turn it over to you, is maybe in the past you were the person who complained about being too busy. Maybe in the past you were the person who always waited for the timing to be perfect. Maybe in the past you were the person who thought work or other people were beneath you. And you could use that past to define you and say, an old dog can't learn new tricks. That's the way things have always been. So that's the way it'll always be. Why do I need to change if no one else is willing to change? Or you could say, this needs to be the year that I stop complaining about the past and step into the version of myself that I've been avoiding that I know I need to be.
History is important. Now, certain history, negative history, bad history, is important because we need to understand what happened in the past so we can avoid doing that misstep and that negative thing again. On the other side, if we understand the great things that happened in our past that we maybe would like to bring back, we need to understand what were the environmental situations, what were the scenarios, what were the all of the variables that went into creating that really great thing that happened in your life so you can recreate that but make it even better and evolve it. And people get so caught up in that and so caught up in the woe is me. It was so much easier when I had that role, or when I was in better shape, or before the big scary orange man was in power, or whatever excuse they're going to make for themselves. When that is the view, then the past is your worst enemy. But when you go, okay, what were the variables that led to that promotion I got and me being in the best physical shape? Oh, okay, yeah. Because I wasn't complaining about what others have and what I don't have. I wasn't complaining about the time not being right. I wasn't complaining about being too busy. I wasn't complaining about things being beneath me. I was living in the moment. I was going after my goals. I was surrounding myself with people that were further ahead than me in a mentorship type role. I was surrounding myself with other people, peers that were positive, that were also chasing their goals. And then somewhere along the way, life happens. You make some mistakes. You lose a job. You lose your business. And you might have to restart. But then you have to look at the past, remember the bad things, avoid those, remember the good things, and try to recreate and evolve those. So you can't get caught up in it, but you need to understand it so you can move forward with a purpose.
I couldn't agree more. And the reality is you see a lot of people that there is potential for people to look at this call and go, hey, you guys are two young, able-bodied white males. Natural assumption is that means you've probably never been through adversity, which couldn't be further from the truth. But a couple things. One is that there seems to be two different siblings in almost every scenario where they grow up in the same household and somehow end up going different paths. And there's the one who uses it as the reason and the one who uses it as the excuse. It is the old telltale story. Uh, my favorite interpretation of this is if you walked around the room, you think your problem is bad, you can't live the life that you want because you're a victim of abuse or a split parent household, or you weren't the favorite child, or you da 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 da, whatever it is. I'm not saying that what happened to you was good, or that it wasn't bad, or that it shouldn't be validated. What I am saying is that that can't be the reason that holds you back, because there's other people that have been through the same thing, if not worse, that are still pushing forward. And if you put yourself in a room with a ton of people and you wrote down a list of all your problems and you threw them in a hat, and then you had to pull out of the hat You'd look at somebody else's problem and you would be begging to get your problem back.
Oh, isn't that the truth? And it's the other thing that the past creates is it's like a competition on who has it worse. So it's like if we stopped competing about that and started competing about, let me rephrase that. If we stopped competing with others about who has it worse and started collaborating with others on what we're doing and why we're doing it, then the past is our best, one of our best assets. And some things that people can act on to utilize that and stop you complaining about the past. Write it down. Get it out on paper. Let it out. If you have nobody else to talk to about it, therapist, mentor, good friend, family member, whatever, write it down. What is that limiting factor from your past that keeps holding you there? What is keeping you there? And then write down that good thing from your past or things that you wish you had back or wish you could create again. Write those down and then go, that's actually pretty achievable. I've done it before. I can do it again. There's many people on this planet that have gone bankrupt and rebuilt it all. There's many people in this world that have got injured and come back stronger. There's many people in this world that have become overweight, had health issues, and then got it back.
Greg, do you know we have, actually, you wouldn't know because I haven't ever had a reason to tell you this. When we go to a company convention and there's 20,000 people in a convention hall, there is an entire section reserved uh, for visually impaired. And we have a whole section for that, and then for people doing sign language for those who are deaf. And then there's a wheelchair section. Like I could go around the arena, forget all the extra life stuff, and go, you're either partially blind or partially deaf or in a wheelchair and winning in our business at a high level. Those are three things I'll never have to, knock on wood, up until this point anyways, have never experienced. So just that, and an entire section of people. There's a story of a girl in our company who couldn't leave bed for more than 10 minutes at a time because of an illness that she was going through and made 100 grand in her first year from bed. So I know you mentioned earlier that the Steve Jobs and those types of examples. What about the person in your community that maybe you're making fun of right now that 2 years from now is going to be living in a life where you're going, man, they got so lucky. Right. It doesn't always need to be the rag to riches going to from nothing, dirt floor to billionaire story. What about the regular person working a 9 to 5, making 50 grand a year that now makes $200,000 passively and is the best version of themselves for their family? Because for every one billionaire story like that, I promise you there are thousands of people. It is not as uncommon as you think. The more questions you ask and the more people you get around in that kind of middle bracket of, hey, I went from this to being this.
I'm so glad you brought up that um, part on the spaces for visually impaired, for wheelchair users, because I've been around para athletes and I've been around regular people that have impairments. Nobody has a better perspective on things, on limiting factors, than individuals that have an irreversible or, yeah, that have had an irreversible condition or traumatic injury, or that have had a life-saving surgery. Those individuals know that every day is a gift, know that they're capable, and they figure out a way, and they have this tenacity that gets embedded in them out of necessity. And they never say, oh, it must be nice. Oh, you got it so easy. No, they just do it. They don't ask for handouts, they don't ask for help. They will find out a way. And it gives that perspective. So again, complaining about the past is due to a lack of perspective on your own perfect little world. Talk to somebody who is in a different circumstance than you. Be curious. And Coop, it goes back to your great saying, right? Be interested, not interesting. And then you'll understand that it's not that bad and it's not that serious. This too shall pass. And there's lots of regular people out there that have moved past their past and created amazing success and have created a rich, fruitful, wealthy life because they let go.
Absolutely. Here's what I'll close on, Greg, before I turn it back to you for final thoughts is Ed Milet and the Power of One More. He has an entire chapter dedicated to talking about operating out of history and memory versus imagination and vision. And a lot of times when people operate out of history and memory, it's I'm not good enough. I always fail. I'm like, that's just not me. I don't have a background in this. Whatever, there's stories that other people have told you in your life that have been put into your subconscious, and that's why you're believing what you're believing. Because you weren't born believing what you believe. Somebody else put it there. And if you can flip that on its head and operate out of vision of, hey, if time and money were no object, and if I could somehow find a way to get rid of my limiting beliefs, who would I want to be? Mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. You design the ideal version of your life and your family and yourself, and then act as if. That's not fake it till you make it. That's chasing your vision and your imagination as opposed to your history and your memory. And I think just the beautiful thing that improves people's mental health because they start to realize that they're the ones in control, they're in the driver's seat, is just realizing that you control the volume on the microphone. You control, do you want to operate out of history and memory, or do you want to operate out of imagination and vision? And uh, I hope this just becomes a part of who you are. To summarize the four things we got to stop complaining about heading into 2026, I hope you strive to be the person that stops thinking that conditions need to be perfect and that the timing never seems to be right to do what you know you already need to do. I hope you become the person that isn't constantly talking about how busy you are and wearing busy as a badge of honor. I hope that you become the person that never sees another human being or another task as beneath you. And I hope that you become the person that references your past but doesn't live there. Like Greg said, there's we study history to figure out if it went well, let's do it again. If it didn't go well, let's not do it again. We don't study history to look back and give ourselves evidence of all the reasons that we can't become the person we want to be. So those are my core four. And Greg, bring us home with kind of your final thoughts and perspective on today.
In 50 years, when you hopefully are still alive, but let's look even further than that. And I'm going to lead with this quote. I can't remember what movie it's from, but it goes, people die twice. Once when we are buried in the ground, and the second time when people stop talking about our name. That second death will come very quickly if all you ever did your whole life was complain about the timing never being right, being too busy, thinking things are beneath you, and your past. That second death may never come if you were constantly bettering yourself, giving your energy and giving your time when available and your money, if possible, to others, and giving more than you take and moving forward with a purpose. That second death may never come. So in 2026, avoid complaining. It's not necessarily possible to avoid complaining at all. I think that's a natural human thing. But limit it and replace it with positivity. Reframe it. Lend yourself perspective. Surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with positivity. And try to create a life that leaves a legacy of positive, of growth, of excellence. Not, ooh, that's something from the past that we don't want to talk about. Go kill 2026. Make it the best year you've ever had yet, and stop complaining.
We'll see you next week.
See you, Coop.